Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a quick second at the beginning of this video to thank you all for the views and the positive things you all had to say about my last video. If you haven't seen it yet, that's the video about Doll and it not returning to Borderlands 4, so that is, in my video list if you want to go back and check that out. But now jumping into this, today I wanted to talk about something a little different. I wanted to talk about another weapons manufacturer who did not return in a Borderlands game, but this one's a little different, and this one's one that obviously I don't feel as passionately about it as I do Doll, but I still think this will be an interesting topic, and kind of more interesting because this is a gun that hasn't returned since Borderlands 1, but I'm talking about the Eridian manufacturer. So again, I'm using manufacturer kind of in quotations, because obviously Eridian is a race and not a manufacturer specifically. But, it's kind of crazy that we've not seen this gun brand return since, Borderlands 1. And before, because I know some people are going to want to talk about, like, E-Tech weapons. Again, E-Tech weapons are technically Eridian weapons, like, they're using Eridian technology, but those are still pretty much just the same weapons as the normal weapons in Borderlands 2, they just have, modifiers on them. And then I know in Borderlands 3, there's the loot gun, but even that isn't exactly a gun, it just shoots loot. So, while yes, I know that is an Eridian technically weapon, it just doesn't classify technically as the kind of weapon that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a gun that actually, like, you can use against enemies. But continuing that point on the loot weapon, I think Borderlands 3 is the game that I'm most confused about why we didn't get Eridian weapons back. I mean, that game deals a lot with the Eridian people. The Necrotafeo planet is an Eridian planet. So the fact that, like, we go there and we find no Eridian weaponry on that planet is a little odd, outside of, the loot gun. And then the fact that, like, that we learned so much about, like, Nereid, the Seventh Siren, and how she was around the Eridian people, and that stuff, like, doesn't really pay off to us finding any Eridian tech. And honestly, I think they could even do the Eridian tech similarly to how they did it in Borderlands 1. Like, I'm not even opposed to it being, like, a very limited drop, like, you maybe only find them every now and then, maybe they have less % chance than a pearlescent, or maybe it's, like, a similar chance rate as a pearlescent. And I don't even mind them really operating very similarly. I'm sure there are ways to improve what the Eridian tech was, but I think the idea of them being kind of like unlimited ammo, but they're limited in charge, and, if you had a few Eridian weapons, you'd be able to bounce between them while they're charging, is a really interesting concept. I believe there is a place for them in the current world of Borderlands, and, having them be like, maybe there's only 6 of them, like one of each type. So, like, maybe there's a rocket launcher, but there's only one Eridian rocket launcher. Maybe there's a sniper rifle, but there's only one Eridian sniper rifle, and that could be a way to kind of limit, how many of them there are in the loot pool. Plus, there's still kind of a low chance rate to get them. And yeah, I mean, I think having neat alien weapons is just kind of a neat thing that Borderlands hasn't really done in a while. Like, it just seems odd to me, like, knowing what Borderlands is, knowing how important the vaults are, knowing how that was something that was introduced in 1, and us really not seeing a whole lot of that inclusion of the Eridian tech. And having it be rare would be a way for them to still respect the fact that it's, like, an old civilization. These weapons aren't just everywhere, they're not just floating around, in all the loot pools. Maybe there are only special ways to get them. Maybe certain bosses have them. I don't know. I think there's even canonical ways to make this make sense. Like, you can only collect so many of them from certain bosses. There are only so many of them in general, that kind of thing. So, now, obviously, similarly to, like, the pearlescent and how they're going to add that later on, I think that's, like, Q1 of 2026. This could be handled in a very similar way. Like, if they decide that they want to add, Eridian weaponry to the game, it could just be a free content update that they add at some point. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, because, again, we have not even seen Eridian tech since, like, true Eridian, like, weaponry. I mean, since Borderlands 1. Another thing they could do, and this is very similar to my Doll thing, so I'm sorry that this is kind of a broken record, but, they could do DLC. I mean, we could have a DLC that's centered more on the Eridian side of things, maybe even the Eridian War. Maybe we'll actually get, like, finally some kind of actual, like, war storyline that was kind of hinted at in the pre-sequel. If so, some kind of DLC where we actually maybe go back to Necrotafeo. Maybe we'll find another planet that, the Eridian people had some kind of importance with. Maybe there's like a planet that they fought a war on with another type of people. I think there are plenty of story opportunities to use. Like, the Eridian people, we don't know a whole lot about. A lot of the stuff we've gotten has just been from the logs about, like, people who have been around them at some point in the past. And that's very far and few. So I think there's plenty of story that you could tell and tons of influence across the galaxy that the Eridians could have had. So yeah, there are tons of planets you could go to and tons of places that, we could find that tech and find those weapons and stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's plenty of ways to tell the story, and there's plenty of ways for Gearbox to include it through either free DLC, where it's just like, hey, we've put a couple weapons in and they are just earnable through some loot, like through like bosses we already have in Borderlands 4. But also there's the possibility that we could, have an actual DLC that actually explains more about the Eridian people, which personally I think would be really cool. I'd love to see the Eridian people expanded on. I feel like the Eridians are something that, like, in Borderlands 3 we finally got a little bit more because of like the Necrotafeo stuff, but ultimately we really haven't gotten a whole lot of info about them overall. So to get some kind of DLC that does like a deeper dive on actually like what happened to them, yeah, I just think there are a lot of really great story opportunities that we could, focus in on and actually learn more about, the Eridian people. And to piggyback off of that, and this is actually something I should probably make a more complete video on, but like, I mean, even like with the Lilith DLC, like, there another weapon type that we've never seen come back is like the effervescent, whatever it was called. That was the like rainbow weapons, and like I just feel like Borderlands every now and then they have these really neat ideas where they come up with just like a neat little thing that they're not a lot of them. They're pretty rare to find. You have to really farm for them, and you have to really like take your time to get this kind of weaponry. And I'd like to see some of that come back, like some of these more rare weapons, like just even more than just pearlescent ones that have a uniqueness to them. So yeah, that's really all I got today. I just kind of wanted to talk about the Eridian weaponry. I think it'd be cool to get more information on the Eridians and, get those weapons back, because I think those weapons had a unique style to them. That whole idea that they, had a magazine that was energy and it wasn't based on an actual ammo capacity, I just think that's neat and just a unique way of playing, and something that we could, get back to just have a different kind of weapon type. So not going to take up too much more of your all's time. I appreciate anyone who's watched this video so far, and a like, a subscribe, comment, share, all that stuff helps the channel. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all hopefully in the next one. Thank you. Peace out, everybody.